Welcome to Broken Models, a podcast where four high school seniors, that's us, break down the most fascinating business failures of the past 2 decades. These are companies that were everywhere, until they weren't. And what they leave behind is more than a meme or a headline. They leave blueprints of what not to do. I'm Tanush.
Hi, I'm Jack. We're not here just to laugh at disasters, even though, yeah, some of them are wild. This is about breaking apart the business models that made these companies crash in the first place. We want to know how they were founded, why they scaled too fast, where the logic fell apart, and what their collapse says about the business world today.
Hi, I'm Demi, and I think what's really exciting about this podcast and this project is that it's not just surface level. We've been diving into investor reports, original pricing strategies, leadership interviews, and even old Reddit threads from users. The stories are dramatic, but the insights are real. Today's subject is no exception. It's a company called MoviePass. If you were anywhere online between 2017 and 2019, you've definitely heard of it.
I'm Kale. MoviePass promised something that sounded absolutely magical. One movie per day, every day, for just $9.95 a month. That was it. Any theater, anytime. Just show up and watch. And for a while, it actually worked. Millions of people signed up. It was one of the fastest growing consumer tech services of the decade.
But here's the twist. It was also one of the fastest collapses we've ever seen in modern consumer business. From peak hype to shutdown in under 2 years. They went from 3 million users to bankruptcy filings almost overnight. And we're going to show you exactly why.
It wasn't just bad luck or poor leadership, even those definitely played a crucial role. It was deeper. This was a business that was broken at the core. The pricing strategy didn't align with customer behavior, the revenue plan didn't exist, and the leadership didn't want to face the math. Instead, they poured gasoline onto a fire, hoping it would turn into a rocket.
And it's honestly so important for aspiring entrepreneurs, especially young ones like us, to understand this kind of story. Because we live in a time where hype can sometimes look more valuable than logic, where going viral feels like success, even if the numbers say otherwise.
And that's why we called this podcast Broken Models. We're going behind the curtain on business ideas that sounded revolutionary, but were actually deeply flawed. And MoviePass might be the ultimate example of that.
In today's episode, we'll cover 5 major chapters of the MoviePass story. The initial vision in early years, when the idea was niche but smart. The 2017 relaunch, aka the hype explosion that drew in millions of subscribers. The unit economics that guaranteed it would never make money. The slow, almost surreal collapse featuring lawsuits, sabotage, and scandals. And finally, the lessons we take away from it. What can future startups learn from this?
And throughout the episode, we'll use real business principles to break this down. We'll talk CAC, LTV, and LTV. We'll talk burn rate, and product market fit. We'll explain how virality can actually kill a business, and we'll show how leadership decisions, especially bad ones, multiply under pressure.
This is more than just a case study. It's a story about risk, ambition, user psychology, and the limits of what a business can promise.
So grab your popcorn because we're about to relive the blockbuster rise and catastrophic fail of MoviePass. Let's get into it. Let's rewind to 2011. MoviePass was founded by 2 guys, Stacy Spikes and Hammett Watt. Back then, the idea was bold but simple. What if you paid a monthly fee to go to the movies, just like you pay for Netflix?
But they weren't trying to be crazy. In fact, the original idea was pretty cautious. Early versions of MoviePass cost around $30 to $50 a month, and it was invite only in beta mode. You couldn't even get it unless you were in certain cities, and they were trying to partner with theaters.
AMC, Regal, Cinemark, none of them wanted to play ball. And honestly, we can see why. Theater chains didn't want to give up revenue or control. If a third-party company was going to subsidize tickets, they weren't interested.
So MoviePass had to operate it on its own. It bought tickets for you at full retail price. You'd get a branded debit card in the mail and use the app to reserve a movie. Then you'd swipe the card like normal at the theater.
That's how it worked for years. Small user base, mostly techies and film buffs. The founders were focused on learning, not scaling.
However, then in 2017, everything changed. A data analytics firm called Helios and Matheson bought a majority stake. Their CEO at the time, Farnsworth, wanted MoviePass to become quote unquote the Netflix of movie theaters.
And this is where things went nuclear. They dropped the monthly price to $9.95 for one movie per day. No blackout dates, no cap. It sounded fake, but yet it was real.
Within 48 hours, they gained 100,000 new users. People couldn't sign up fast enough. Their servers crashed. News outlets exploded. Everyone was talking about it.
Users were posting screenshots on Reddit, bragging about how they were gaming the system. It became a cultural moment. For a few months, MoviePass felt like a cheat code.
And that's where the hype came in. The company leaned into it fast. They prioritized growth over everything, even profitability, even stability. Their logic was get big first, figure out the money later.
And it worked, at least in terms of scale. They hit 1 million subscribers in just 3 months, then 2 million, then 3. It was one of the fastest growing consumer apps in US history.
But here's the thing, their user base wasn't made up of casual moviegoers. It was the diehards, the people going 10, 15, 20 times a month. The exact opposite of what MoviePass had hoped for.
So every new user, another loss. Every ticket they bought, paid out of pocket. It was like setting money on fire. The more people loved it, the worse it got.
The hype became the trap, and that brings us to the next segment where we break down the numbers and show you why MoviePass was doomed from the jump.
Let's talk unit economics, the foundation of whether any business makes money per customer. And for MoviePass, it was a disaster.
The average US movie ticket in 2017 was about $9, but in big cities, it could go up to $16 or $18. And MoviePass was charging users just $9.95 per month.
So if a user watched even 2 movies a month, the company lost money. That's not a bug. That's the entire business being broken at its core.
And most users weren't seeing just 2. Some were seeing 5. Others hit double digits. One guy literally watched the Emoji Movie every day just because he could.
The idea was that user behavior would average out, that most people would sign up, get lazy, and not actually use it. But that didn't happen.
The people signing up were power users, and MoviePass had no deals with theaters. They paid full retail for every single ticket.
So let's say a customer costs $40 a month in ticket fees. You charge $10, that's a $30 loss per user per month. Multiply that by 3 million users, that's almost $100 million in losses every month.
The only way they could keep going was by raising more capital. So they spun a narrative that the data they collected would be worth millions, that they'd sell insights to studios.
But the data wasn't deep. It showed what movie users saw, but not whether they liked them, not who they went with, not how it influenced behavior. It wasn't actionable.
So the entire monetization plan was weak. The only real asset was hype, and hype isn't revenue.
They tried other tickets too, like limiting access, requiring users to upload photos of their stubs, blocking certain movies during peak times, but that just made customers angry.
In other words, they created a product too good to be true, then scrambled to make it worse once it started working.
And that's the core problem. Growth can't come at the cost of survival. MoviePass became a viral hit, but every new customer was like a hole in the hull of a ship already sinking.
By early 2018, MoviePass had 3 million subscribers. They were on fire, at least from the outside. But inside, it was already unraveling. The burn rate was insane. At one point, they were losing over $20 million per month.
They started trying desperate tactics to slow down usage. First, they quietly changed the terms of service. Then, they introduced blackout dates, which limited the users from seeing movies on weekends or for new releases. Eventually, they even blocked popular titles altogether.
The worst part? Users weren't even told. You'd go to the app to see Mission Impossible, Fallout, and it just wasn't there. Or you'd try to log in and suddenly your password didn't work. They literally changed users' passwords to stop them from logging in.
That's not just bad customer service, that's sabotage. Imagine paying for a gym membership and they randomly lock the door on your workout days.
They also launched unlimited, but not really plans, like a three-movie cap or only 2D showings, and they buried it in a small print. Users who joined for the unlimited freedom suddenly felt tricked.
That essentially killed trust. Subreddits like our MoviePass turned into war zones. Headlines called it a scam. Better Business Bureau downgraded their rating. Started flying in from customers, from investors, and even from shareholders who held a huge stake.
Helios and Matheson, the parent company, was exposed too. The SEC investigated their disclosures. Turns out they were inflating user numbers, hiding churn, and spinning narratives that didn't match reality.
Their stock, which once hit $38, dropped to literal pennies. Eventually, they got delisted from NASDAQ. A company that was once valued in the hundreds of millions was now worth less than a NYC studio apartment.
Meanwhile, the original founder, Stacy Spikes, had already been fired. He tried to warn the team that the math didn't work, but Farnsworth and Lowe pushed him out. He would later go on to reacquire the rights to MoviePass and reboot it in 2023, but that's a story for another episode.
By September of 2019, MoviePass shut down completely. They sent a email out to all their users. No refunds, no formal apology, just, we're done. See you later.
And honestly, that ending reflects everything that led up to it. No real customer respect, no transparency, no long-term plan.
What's crazy is that the idea of movie subscriptions wasn't even a bad one. AMC launched its own version, A-List, and it worked because it was priced realistically, only valid at AMC theaters, and had better controls.
So the model wasn't broken. MoviePass's version of it was. They tried to hack the industry without building any relationship or infrastructure.
And they thought that if they just scaled fast enough, the details would solve themselves. That's one of the most dangerous beliefs in all of the business world.
Because when your foundation is unstable, growth doesn't fix it. It makes it worse. It speeds up your collapse.
So now that we've watched the rise, the hype, the burn, and the crash, let's step back. What can we actually learn from MoviePass?
First, a business model has to make sense from day one. If your product loses money for every user and there's no path to flip that, then you don't have a business. You have a countdown to destruction.
Second, don't assume customer behavior will adapt to your financial needs. MoviePass assumed people would use it like a gym membership, sign up and not show up. But the opposite happened. Super users showed up every day. The company paid the price.
Third, hype is not strategy. Hype can raise money, hype can grab headlines, but hype doesn't keep your business afloat if it's built on a faulty logic. That's why every new user made the problem worse.
Fourth, honesty matters. MoviePass didn't just fail, it lied. It tampered with accounts, it gaslit customers, it misled investors, and those choices destroyed any goodwill the brand had left.
Fifth, growth needs boundaries. Viral growth is great, but only if your business can handle it. MoviePass scaled too fast. No infrastructure, no support systems, no pricing plan that worked.
And sixth, maybe most importantly, sustainability beats disruption. Everyone wants to be a good disruptor, but if you're disrupting with no long-term engine, you're not leading a revolution. You're just lighting a fire that burn you first.
And look, we're all high schoolers here, seniors, about to go into business schools and entrepreneurship programs. These stories, they matter because they remind us not to get blinded by the next big thing energy, to actually do the math, to ask hard questions, and to know when a model is broken before we build something on top of it.
That's why we made broken models. We want to understand the why behind business failures, not just the headlines. And with MoviePass, the why is clear. They offered something that sounded too good to be true, and it was.
Next episode, we're looking at another broken model. WeWork, a company that tried to reinvent office space, convinced the world it was a tech startup and ended up with one of the most bizarre IPO implosions of all time.
It involves spiritual vibes, tequila shots, billions in losses, and the softest bank bailout in history. You're going to want to hear that one.
Thanks for listening to Broken Models. If you like this episode, follow us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. We're four teens with a passion for business and maybe a little too much free time, but we're here to make business failure make sense.
Catch you next
Catch you
time.
next time.